Hello, and thank you for joining us for this webinar about the evaluation forms that we're using for our fall prevention programs. Just a little background on the programs. The State Health Department has two grants that we're using for older adult fall prevention activities. The CDC grant covers the Denver metro area in classes and implementation. It's a 5-year grant, and we're in year 4 of the 5 years. The Tai Chi Movement for Better Balance classes are mostly done through Parks and Rec and through YMCAs. The Stepping On classes are primarily done through Centura and Health One hospitals. The Administration and Community Living grant is a new grant for the State Health Department. This helps cover classes outside the Denver metro area. It's a 2-year grant starting in fall of 2014. The Tai Chi Movement for Better Balance classes are primarily going to be implemented through Parks and Rec, but also some other partners. And the Stepping On classes will be implemented at Centura hospitals that are located outside of Denver Metro and some other partners. The good news about all of this is we were able to provide one set of data collection forms and procedures. So regardless of which grant covers your programs, there'll be the same procedure. The purpose of our project data collection is really to evaluate our project. We're collecting data on attendance, the number of people who attend each class, and how many classes each person attends. We're looking at data on who's attending. That's demographic data about the gender and race, ethnicity, and what county or city they're from. This really helps us determine if we're reaching the population. We're collecting data on one physical assessment test, the Timed Up and Go or TUG test. This helps us provide information on the progress of participants. It's really powerful when we can report on how well people have improved using this test, and it's the kind of test that physical therapists and healthcare providers understand and can look at. We also use the TUG test to provide individual feedback to the participants, and you'll be doing that as part of your instructor job. We're also, as our evaluation purpose is to collect data on the abilities and attitudes of people, but their health status, their fall history, their confidence, activity restrictions, and we're collecting data on how the program works. This is really at the last class, asking people about how they heard about the class, what risk reduction plans or behaviors do they have, and would they recommend the class to others. As just a way to tell you what's going to be coming in this webinar, here are the forms that we'll be covering: the program information cover sheet, participant information form given at the first class, attendance log, the participant post-program survey given at the last class, the TUG log, and then the TUG feedback forms for the instructors to use. Also, just a little background on privacy and confidentiality, because this will help you be able to provide this information to participants. Participants may refuse to complete the surveys. They can say they're just not interested. They may leave any question blank, and they can say they would like to do the TUG test but don't want that information to be shared. Confidentiality: any of the survey coordinators keep the forms stored in locked files. The forms are sent to CDC or ACL without names or phone numbers, and information is not reported for any individuals. Quality assurance is something that's really important. We've been doing this project for about a year and found that we do have quite a bit of missing data, and we'd like to have you as instructors really work on getting as much data as possible so we have the most powerful evaluation possible. So to reduce missing data, I think it's helpful to explain the value of the surveys. You can, as instructors, check that all questions are answered, check that both sides of the forms are completed, and then if something's not complete, just ask the participant if they want to correct or complete it. And again, they can say no, that they don't want to complete any questions. We want to increase the number of people who complete the forms. So instructors, please offer the survey to all participants and make it easy for them to complete the forms. we want to collect pre- and post-data on as many as possible. That means that it's great to encourage participants to attend that last class, even though that's a class that has some paperwork that needs to be completed. You can encourage people to finish the survey process, help us out by filling out the post-survey, and encourage people to take the TUG test as valuable feedback. But remember, if people don't want to participate or want to skip questions, that's fine. The first form I wanted to go over is really not a form to be filled out, but just an introduction talking point sheet. And this can be something that you read or paraphrase to the participants, telling them the purpose of the evaluation project, what we're asking them to do, which is to fill out a survey at the first class and the last class and allow us to look at their attendance and TUG logs. They can choose to participate, explains the confidentiality, and gives contact information at the State Health Department, and you're welcome to provide copies of this to anyone who's interested. The Falls Prevention Program information cover sheet is pretty self-explanatory, just gives us some background information on you as a site, and you really need to fill this out just once the first time you send in paperwork. Participant information form. Participant will fill in the name and the ID and their instructions on how to create that ID number. The other questions are about demographics and background information. The Page 2 of the participant information form asks about falls and fear of falling and health conditions. And remember, folks can skip questions if they don't want to fill them out. Please try and check over the form, and if the answers are blank, ask the participant if they want to fill that information in. Also a note, the information at the bottom about program ID, that will be filled in by the survey coordinator. The next form is the attendance log. You can see at the top right side of the form, there's a place to fill in the implementation site name. The survey coordinator will fill in the site ID because that could vary between the two different databases. You, as the instructor, would fill in the participant names, and if possible, fill in the participant IDs, which are on the participant information forms. And if it's not possible for you to fill those in, the survey coordinators can do that. Note that there's a column for Class 0. Class 0 is if you have people come in as a group to just do testing and fill out paperwork. This form would be used for both Stepping On and Tai Chi Movement for better balance. Stepping On would just use the 7 class columns. Tai Chi Movement for better balance would use this page 1 for the first 12 classes or sessions, and then there's a page 2 for classes 13 through 24. If you do have more than 16 people in a class, you can make copies of these sheets and then just renumber them. We do want to collect information on the Timed Up and Go test. Again, this is optional, but it really does provide us with some valuable information. CTC has a good training video, and then I'll talk a little bit more about the forms.
The Timed Up and Go, or TUG, tests functional mobility. To perform the test, you need a chair and a stopwatch, or a wristwatch with a second hand. Have your patient start by sitting on the chair, feet flat on the floor, one foot slightly in front of the other, and hands on the armrests of the chair. Put a line on the floor 10 feet or 3 meters away. Ask your patient to stand up from the chair and walk at her normal pace to the line on the floor when you say go. When she reaches the line, she should turn around, walk back to the chair, and sit down. Be sure to start timing on the signal go, and even if your patient has not started to move, and stop timing at the moment she sits back down in the chair. While she's walking, stand between the chair and the line in case the patient loses her balance and you need to assist. Observe and note the patient's posture, width of the base of support, step height, stride length, arm swing, and path. When the test is complete, record the time. Also record whether the patient used an assistive device, and if so, what type. A community-dwelling older adult who takes more than 12 seconds to complete the TUG is at increased risk of falling.
So the TUG forms, there's a Tug Leader Protocol, which is just a background refresher document, talks about the tug equipment that is needed. It's nice for consistency to use the same equipment for pre and post assessment, but not really necessary since we're not doing a strict research project here. And there are instructions that you can use as you're talking to the participants. Page 2 of the Tug Leader Protocol gives information on how you can demonstrate the tug test if you wish to do that. It does take more time. You can record the participant times on the tug log. There are good safety tips on this form as well. And this tug script, again, is a resource for leaders or instructors. If you don't feel comfortable explaining tug in your own words, you can read or paraphrase this form. The tug log has a place for class ID. That'll be filled in by the survey coordinator. The dates and information about the equipment, the chair used, will be completed by the leader. It's helpful if the names are in the same order as they are in the attendance log, but not necessary. We know how chaotic it can be trying to get through all these forms. And also you can leave the participant ID blank and the survey coordinator can fill it in. But if you do have the time, it would be great to have that filled in. Notice there's one column that says share data, and that's where you can write in no if a participant says he or she does not want to share the tug information. And that really happens rarely, but we want to offer that as an option. There are 2 tug personal records, and these are feedback forms, and these are also optional. You can use your tug log and fill out this personal record form. This is a good way to show participants their progress. One caution is you need to be prepared on what you might say if participants do not improve on the tug. They may feel badly about not having an improvement. You can indicate to them that staying the same is good. Perhaps they started out at a high level, or they really had a lot of physical issues and you wouldn't expect to see a great progress in the short period of time. You can also let people know this is only one test and talk to them about how they feel and what did they get out of the class. This is also a way to encourage people to take additional fall prevention classes so they can improve even more. We have another form that we're trying this year, a tug or a really program progress report. This is also optional. You can fill in the tug information. The person is welcome to take this and share it with their healthcare provider. And we hope that they do this to start and continue more conversations about fall prevention. The next form is the participant post-program survey. The participant would fill in their ID number according to the instructions. This is the way we link the person to their baseline survey and attendance and tug records. And if necessary, if the person is having a hard time remembering or figuring out the ID number, the person could write down their name and we will black out that name as we enter the data. The questions on this form are similar to those asked at the baseline survey. Page 2 questions are about how participants felt about the program and any actions they have taken as a result of taking the class or program. Again, it's very helpful if the instructors can check the form for completeness. In this post-program survey form, there are 2 boxes or questions where there are actually multiple questions. And it's very helpful if you can be sure every row is filled out. Or the person may tell you that they don't want to answer that particular question. So just to go over a little bit on the procedure, administering the forms at the first class, or it may be done at a 0 session, leaders or instructors would explain the reasons for the data collection, distribute the participant information forms, collect the completed forms, review them for clarity, completeness, write participant names and ID number if possible on the attendance log, take attendance, and then explain and conduct and record the tug scores. After the first class, for Tai Chi Movement for Better Balance, we ask that the leaders turn in the participant information forms to their survey coordinator, and I'll tell you a little bit more about who those people are at the end of the program. So it's helpful to turn that in within 48 hours just because that way we know the forms are not going to get lost. Survey coordinator will receive and check over the forms, might call you if there are questions. We will store a copy of the forms, and we will remove the names and then process the forms for the two databases. Administering forms at the last class. This is for the Tai Chi Movement for Better Balance, as well as for Stepping On. Since Stepping On only has 7 classes, it's easier to collect all the forms at one time. So here the leaders would provide the post-program surveys to participants, collect the completed surveys, review them for clarity, completeness, conduct and record the TUG scores, provide the TUG feedback forms to the participants. The leaders would return all the forms, including the attendance form, to the survey coordinator within 48 hours of the last class. The survey coordinator again will receive and check over the returned forms, clarify the responses, store the forms securely, and then remove names before processing the forms for the two databases. Again, for Stepping On, the forms are the program information cover sheet, participant information forms, attendance log, participant post-program surveys, and TUG log, and those are all submitted to the survey coordinator after the last class. For Tai Chi Movement for Better Balance, the program information cover sheets, participant information forms are completed after the first class and turned in to the survey coordinator at that time. And then after the last class, the additional forms, attendance log, post-program surveys, TUG log, are also completed and returned to the survey coordinator. And then the TUG feedback forms are used as an optional form for the instructors to provide that feedback to the participants. And what do you do with these forms? At this time, we're having all completed forms be sent to Erin Lessert, who's the State Health Department Survey Coordinator. You can scan and email the forms to Erin, you can fax them to her, or you can mail them to her. The fax is a secure fax. If you have any questions, you can call and talk to Erin. Thank you, and we appreciate all that you do in providing these important older adult fall prevention classes.